All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I am so excited to be back with all of you. And joining me is your co-host, Pam Cass. Hello, Pam. How are you today?
I am fabulous. Best way to end the day with another interview. So I am super excited to be here. And this is what, our 8th day, like in a row?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
We're gonna have a little break this week. So
we're just gonna keep cranking things out, right? Like we have content, we have ideas, we have podcast episodes. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling, or R&B, or whatever your preference. Exactly. Exactly. Well, we have a guest joining us today, and Pam, why don't you tell our listeners who's joining us?
Absolutely. So very excited. So taking the helm at Homeboy during a financial downturn, Tom has steered Homeboy into an unprecedented phase of growth and success. Since then, he has quadrupled the size of the organization and spearheaded thriving social enterprises, growing Homeboy's footprint from a single bakery to 13 new businesses, which provide both vital training ground for clients as well as revenue streams to support the mission. Welcome, Tom. We are so excited for you to be with us today. And I would love for you just to kick us off by telling us about who you are and what brought you on this journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a long story to what got me to this journey. But if I can first start, let me talk about Homeboy, and so that's to sort of put it into context of everything else. Yeah. So here we are in Los Angeles, and we're actually taping in the week that there's a lot of fires here in our great city, and it's overall everybody's despondent and in despair, and there's a lot of tragedy around. Mm-hmm. And what was so interesting, and I just love Homeboy, and I love my being part of this community, is that people keep showing up every day. And they show up for that sake of community. They show up for that relationship. So who we are, we're a nonprofit in Los Angeles. We help people leave gang life behind. So when someone leaves a prison system or jail system, they don't want to go back and run with the gang any longer. So people walk through our doors voluntarily, and we help them leave that life behind. We're a human services organization. What makes us very different is that we give them a job, essentially, but their job is to work on themselves. They go to their therapy, go to anger management, get their GED, get their tattoos removed. Along the way, they're sweeping floors and washing windows, but it's about helping somebody heal. All our folks are victims of complex trauma, and we help them gain resiliency. In over 18 months, they leave Homeboy, and hopefully they're resilient enough to take on society challenges. And so that's us. We're the world's largest gang intervention program. Why we're the world's largest? Because LA has the world's largest gang population. Mm-hmm. And we help a lot of people. So for me, and I thank you for allowing me to be on and talking to you all. I come to Homeboy, I've now been here 12 years. And before that, I was 26 years in the for-profit sector of our economy. I ran a $2 billion set of businesses. My business is at 18,000 employees. I only say that in terms of the context of comparing my for-profit corporate career to now my nonprofit career here, this chapter that I have. And it's pretty amazing. I love business. So I'm a business guy. I go off and I speak at conferences on behalf of Homeboy, and I lead off and I'll say right here, I'm a committed capitalist. I think well-run companies are good for our society. right? They provide, a well-run company succeeds for shareholders, but also it's people want to buy the product or service, and that it's a great place to work for the employee base. And so, to me, well-run business is it provides structure and quality jobs for people. And so those are my values. And so showing up here at Homeboy, I had left the corporate world behind, and we can talk about that in a minute why I did that. But my friend asked me who I'm on the board of Salvation Army in Los Angeles. My friend asked me to, once he knew I left the corporate world, he asked me to have lunch at the Homegirl Cafe. Part of Homeboy Industries, we have social enterprises, which provides purposeful activity for someone's day. You can't just heal 8 hours a day. You got to do something. So I went to the Homegirl Cafe, and I'm having lunch with my friend, and he's talking about Homeboy. I didn't know much about it. We're in downtown Los Angeles. And I'm looking around, and I'm seeing the workers, and I'm seeing that they're working hard, they're engaging the customer, they're taking direction from their supervisor. It seems like a good workforce. And I had that realization right then that in my for-profit role, I would have never hired any one of them because they had tattoos on their face, they had felonies, and they were gang members. And so that challenged me to think, Tom, you think you're this hotshot business guy, but yet here's this whole population you knew nothing about. And so that kind of incentivized me I didn't want to be on the board, so I started volunteering, and I was an old man, gray hair, knows business. So I volunteered in the businesses, and a couple months later, Father Greg, our founder, asked me to be the CEO. And again, I had all the hubris of a corporate executive. I thought, yeah, I'll do this for 6 months to a year, help fix them all up, and then move on. So here we are 12 years later, and just love what this chapter of my career has been for me.
Beautiful. I love that. I love where you plug in and you say, well, here are my strengths and this is what I'll bring to the table. And in my world, 6 months, 1 year, we'll get everything in tip-top shape and out the door I'll go. And something else tugged at your heartstrings, I'm sure, or that inner purpose, it sounds like.
No, for sure. And so again, I'm a big proponent of businesses and creating a quality job. And so early on, I saw, wow, in the context of a job, Homeboy is really helping people who are forgotten and demonized in our society. And that in itself is sort of worth hanging around and being part of. And how do you create more opportunities for more people to have structure and chances in their life? Quickly over time, I came to realize that Homeboy is more than a job. It's about helping people heal from their trauma and their life sufferings and situations beyond what I ever experienced and could even imagine. And yet, at Homeboy, I invite you all to come visit us and any listener to come visit us. You'll walk through our doors and you'll feel the energy, the vibe, the ethos, the love, the compassion. It's a place that just makes you feel good because people are their most authentic self without pretenses. And that tugs on your heartstring. And so if a hard-charging CEO like me could use a little bit of my business skills and be part of somebody's life, how they move their life forward, yep, that's what it's all about.
Love it. Well, share with us what brought you from the corporate world over to Homeboy.
Yeah. So the business I was in, again, I was running about a $2 billion set of businesses. And this was back in my sort of seminal moment, as I would say. In 2008, there was this great recession in the United States. A couple of years back, we just had a recession because of COVID, but that was a self-induced shutdown. But in 2008, it was about the economy shrinking. And so the businesses I ran was scheduled to produce about $150 million of profit. $2 billion of revenue, $150 billion of profit. And I remember ending the year, we're getting close to the end of the year, and I'm talking to the chairman. And at that time, I said, we're scheduled to be at $140 million of profit, not 150. And I remember the chairman taking me to task saying, that's not good enough, that we need to get back to the $150 million, that we made promises to the Wall Street investors, Wall Street analysts. And that it was my task to find that last $10 million of profit. And we already had done all the right sizing, all those other things we did. And we thought we were pretty good delivering the 140 million. And so, but I knew at that point that what to take that, to find that last 10 million, I would have had to let people go, fire more people who've been with the company for a long time, people who I knew we would need in when the economy turns back around, that we would need them. And so I'm thinking, well, why am we're wrecking their lives not because of financial survival, but because we made a commitment to Wall Street. We had to keep our word, but the Great Recession came along, and like it didn't really jive for me. And so that was implanted in my brain, and that's like, well, that somewhere along the way, while I'm a big believer as a capitalist, that our capital markets are set up obviously for a shareholder value to come first and employees to come second. And so something in me wanted to find a way of how do you have employees at the same level in terms of the same concerns. And so a couple of years later, after we were a private company at that point, after my golden handcuffs uncuffed, I was able to go off and do other things. And I decided to leave the corporate world behind. Not knowing really what I was looking to go do. I didn't think I would go be a nonprofit guy. But here I am.
I love that.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned doing this?
Oh my gosh, there's so many lessons. It's interesting. I'll do a short little plug. I wrote a book called The Homeboy Way.
Okay.
And I say that because when I came into Homeboy 12 years ago, that first year or two, my head was a spinning learning so many things. And I kept thinking I should write a book because if I was ever to go back into the for-profit world, what would be the set of lessons? So what's it like? What are leadership lessons you learn from gang members, right? And there's a hierarchy in gangs, of course, but how do they think about the world? But then the lessons are, what is it like to manage a workforce who are the working poor of our society, right? What are the lessons there? But really, what are the lessons about if your business model is healing people, how do you approach that differently than if your business model is making money, right? And there's lessons to all that. But your question was, what's the biggest lesson I learned? And this is where like I was a religious oriented person coming into Homeboy, but now I'm more a faith person, my own spiritual journey. And my biggest lesson is that finally I understood that God is too busy loving me to be judging me. And he's too busy loving you to be judging you. And boy, once you really internalize that and lock in, that changes your life.
That's a powerful observation, because even if we take that and embrace it as our own, right? I'm too busy loving you to judge you. If we take that out with us every day, how significant of a difference would we see, in terms of society and how we operate and how we function, this division that we see so much of, based off of.
You're exactly right. And so, now, one would think I learned that from Father Greg Boyle, our founder, which is true. I mean, he's a Jesuit priest, right? But really, I learned that from our clients, our trainees. We call them trainees, our homies, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, all our folks are victims of complex trauma.
Yeah.
They're second, third generation gang members. They never had a chance than to be in a gang. Most of them never finished high school. They were told by their parent, their mother, their father, their uncle to stand on the corner, be the lookout for the drug deal. Don't go to school. You're not going to amount to anything. They've been physically abused, emotionally abused. They join a gang. Why do people join gangs? They think it's a way out of their situation, a way out of the trauma. They think it's a family. False hope. They join a gang. They do something bad. They go to prison. They go to jail. And they don't want to do that again. And they're victims of trauma. And so I've seen this. I see I say often, about Homeboy is like if you sort of doubted your faith in God, come to Homeboy, you'll see it happen every day. You see God's influence every day. And so I've been able to see people as they transform, they come in angry, comes from hurt, and I see them as they move to joy. And why that happens, back to how you said that. They're able to love others when they finally realize that they're loved no matter what they did in their past, no matter what brokenness they have. When they realize God loves them no matter what, then they can start loving themselves. And then after they start loving themselves, they can start loving their children and then their families. And that's how society gets influenced and impacted.
Wow. I feel like that's such a massive charge when you're taking these individuals through this, because when you talk about complex trauma and even generations of gang members, that thought never crossed my mind, but I'm now realizing that being a reality. When you have all of those things layered together, just the environment that individuals are raised in and what they're comfortable with, and then coming to terms and realizing that you want something different, that you want to start on a different path or have different experiences and do that healing, because that's what you're referencing to, is doing that healing work. That's quite the overhaul for, I can only imagine that would be quite the overhaul for individuals. I'm just assuming.
Oh no, exactly right. And it's like, that's why sounds cliche, but I so admire our people. I mean, they have gone through terrible circumstances. They're able to transform their life. It's like, if you don't, if you don't transform your pain, you transmit your pain. So they're able to sort of move past that pain. And look, we're a nonprofit organization. We mostly we have donor revenue, business revenue, but mostly donor revenue, a little bit government revenue. But thankfully, we have generous donors because they see what people have, how much they have changing their life, and they're willing to sort of invest in that to happen. And because every one of us as humans has some type of pain and some type of trauma that we need to kind of work through and heal from and become resilient from. And our folks are those authentic voices that had how that happens.
Yeah. Well, and Tom, you mentioned that Homeboy offers a variety of modalities for the individuals, for your homies that come through.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about the work that you do with the homies. What does that look like?
Yeah, well, we have a big team, and so while you say me, it's more about Homeboy do the work.
Y'all, I'll say y'all then.
Y'all.
Yes, I'm from Texas, y'all.
Yeah, yeah, and so first, let me just say it sort of starts pretty basic. If you think about our population, they've been demonized, forgotten. People want to lock them up and throw away the key, but they do get out. And when mostly people show up to us when they just got out of jail or prison, they're looking for a different way. They don't want to go back to their neighborhood where their gang members are. They don't want to go back to their family where sort of got them into the gang. But all their life, they've been told no, they're not good enough. And so when people walk through our doors for the first time, through our founder, Father Greg, what we've learned is somehow say yes. Get them a meal, get them some clothing, get them some shelter. If they want tattoos removed, get them that going. Let them see a therapist. Say yes. And because we now have so many people in our buildings, the beehive, it's buzzing all around and mostly filled with gang members, because I'm proud of the fact that 2/3 of our management team are former clients, and we can talk about that in a minute. But the point is, when people walk through our doors, they see themselves and others who are helping them, right? And so the modality is more of a how to happen, but like clearly it's the philosophy is about say yes and really help them form positive attachments, positive relationships for the first time in their life.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're doing. So look, as the business guy coming in, let me take a sidebar for a second. Homeboy was going through a financial crunch, running out of money. So when the board, anyway, so I got asked to come along. Father Greg asked me to be CEO because we're going through a financial crunch. So me as the business guy is coming in, I'm seeing all these people that's sitting around, kicking it and talking, and think, well, wait a minute, we're not being productive. But we come to learn later. But that's about the positive relationships, because folks would only interact with their own homies in their own gang. They wouldn't go across to rival gangs or rival races or so we're about sort of allowing people to have those positive relationships and trusting in that for the first time. And then we sort of then stabilize them, find them housing, they get assigned a case manager, they get assigned a navigator. They kind of we've worked through what their challenges are. Like, do they got to get a driver's license? Like, do we help them on family reunification? Do we help them with substance abuse problems? And so we have individual plans along that way, along the 18 months. And eventually we rotate them through our social enterprise businesses, because 90% of our folks have never worked in a job formal job in their whole life. And so got to teach them job skills, show up on time, that type of thing. And so that through a combination of purposeful activity, instruction in the businesses, and all those modalities on the mental health healing side, the wellness side, we're able to kind of help people kind of find that resilience to move forward.
Wow.
And what's after Homeboy for them?
We work to get them a job outside of Homeboy. It's not easy. We're always looking for more felony-friendly employers. And, through different waves of the economy, that's sometimes easier than harder. We're trying to grow our own social enterprise businesses so more folks can land into our businesses. But at any one time, we have 500 trainees on payroll, so it's not like we can hire all of them.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, people are with us for 18 months, but very few people with us from day one to the 18th month day straight on. People fall backwards, so in many ways, think about a rehab program. On average, it takes like 12 times someone going to rehab before they finally get sober. Not that many times for us, but it's like, yeah, sometimes the stressors in life get to people. There's only two rules that we have, no drugs and don't running with your gang. If you're running with the gang, we're going to ask you to leave. But if you show up late and you can't do this, you can't do that, we'll look past all that and give you all those second chances. But we need you to be working on yourself and be evaluating to work on yourself.
Yeah. Tom, what's the, I would guess say, I'll phrase it as the most fulfilling or rewarding experience that you've seen for one of the homies that have gone through the program, just them coming out on the other end. I'm sure that you have many. What's the one that bubbles up to the top?
No, I'm not going to do one.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to do one. But let me say a couple things. So, just on the sheer numbers, a number of years ago, we're in Los Angeles. UCLA did a study about Homeboy, independently funded study, showed that people who have been part of the Homeboy program only have a 30% recidivism rate, which means going back to the jail system under new charges.
Yeah.
And that compares very favorably to the statewide average 70% recidivism rate. So we're 2 times more effective. And I say that because what is our secret sauce? It's really love and kinship and non-judgment, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what people need. And so there's been hundreds and thousands of people I've seen over my time here who have just changed their life. They come in like hardcore, bitter gang members, and some just eventually leave. They have a good job. They get reunified with their family. They make amends with their parents. They make amends with their victims, and so it's so amazing. But the spirit of your question, it's not about the outcome or the successes. It's about the friendships that I've had. And I think what I've learned most from Father Greg, which he goes off and writes beautiful books and does a lot of speeches and all. But and the thesis is he asks us as humans to move ourselves to be with the people on the margins of our society, and just to be in relationship with them. Not to kind of tell them what they need to have done or what they're doing wrong or instruct them, but just to be in relationship with them. And to me, it's just so many people I would sit there and just, they would come and talk to me. I would talk to them, and in some ways, I'm not giving them any like sage advice. It's just about a relationship. And for them, it's not often that they see an old white guy that they can sit and talk to along the way, right? But it's, but seeing how they now take care of their children. And so the everyday things that we take for granted, like, we go to the school Halloween parade, and they ask for days off to go to their kids' school Halloween parade, a life they never would have had. When when we have a morning startup meeting, oftentimes we sing happy birthday to people. It's the first time they ever in their life got happy birthday sung to them. Right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes at Christmas time, it's such a painful time for so many of our folks. And so sometimes they've been people locked up for 30 years. They come out, it's the first time they've ever gotten a Christmas present. It's like outside the jail. So there's like those moments of graces. That just is what I take away. It's not so much about one person's success, plenty of successes, but it's like, it's sort of now being aware that there are moments of grace out there to appreciate.
Yeah.
So you have created this incredible community for these people. You have everything they need.
The team has done a wonderful job at that.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.